WWE SummerSlam 2024 is just 5 days away, and the Go Home Raw is in the books. What's going on, guys? Happy Monday to you. Decided after all to come up and do a Raw review tonight. I was thinking I might postpone tonight's episode until a little bit later in the week so we could tie in pay-per-view predictions, but I think I'm just going to release predictions videos to you guys, predictions video, I should say, to you guys on Thursday. So it's not going to be a live stream, just an uploaded video on Thursday. That is where you will get my full SummerSlam predictions. Now, we're going to be talking and speculating and doing some predicting here tonight in this episode as well, but we'll primarily just be focusing on the results of tonight's Go Home Raw, which was bumped from the USA Network to the Sci-Fi Network. So tonight and next week on the post-SummerSlam Raw, they're both going to be on Sci-Fi. That's not ideal, but something that WWE is very used to. Back in the day, back in the 90s, Raw would always play second fiddle to the Dog Show and to the US Open Tennis. And a lot of those Raws around SummerSlam time in like 97, 98, 99 were bumped and preempted for the US Open. So here we go again, only this time I believe it's the Olympics. We got them satanic Olympics going on right there on the USA Network. Can't be watching them satanic Olympics. We don't want to be doing that. But that is what bumped Raw tonight, and it'll be the same for next week. So tonight was not too big of a deal, but I really think being on the Sci-Fi channel next week might hurt them a little bit. You know, a big post pay-per-view Raw like that, you want on your home base channel where everybody knows where to find you. And I hope they don't hold back anything next week. I hope if they have any post SummerSlam plans, storyline wise or whatever, they still bring it out to us next week on the Sci-Fi Network, because I'm expecting big things at SummerSlam this year. In terms of tonight's Raw, let me know what you thought of the show. I didn't think it was bad. Was nothing special, nothing crazy. SmackDown was kind of like that last week, although it was a taped show. It was still structured real well, and there were still interesting things on there. This week could be really interesting on SmackDown because they booked 2 championship matches with Jade and Bianca getting a title shot along with the Bloodline. We could see 2 new tag team champions crowned this Friday on SmackDown. And as it stands right now, unless they do an appearance of some kind, looks like Jade and Bianca are not on SummerSlam, and that really sucks, especially for Bianca Belair. But we'll see what happens this week on SmackDown. If they do win, maybe they book some last-minute match just to be a part of SummerSlam, just to get these women on the card. I can't imagine a SummerSlam without a Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, or Seth Rollins wrestling in the ring. That's pretty bonkers to me, but you know, it's a new era in WWE. And based on what we saw in the closing of the main event tonight, I really, really liked it, even though you could see this coming from yesterday. You know, I had a good idea, pretty good idea anyway, that Gunther and Balor would be the main event tonight, and the show would probably close with a big Balor and Priest brawl, and that's exactly what happened. But I didn't exactly hate it. And one good thing and one positive thing I want to say about the World Heavyweight Championship match is that this has not really been an afterthought. All year long, we've been assuming that Gunther will find his way to the World Championship, to a World Championship this year in 2024. Once he won the King of the Ring in Saudi Arabia, and they had that stip that the King and Queen of the Ring winners get championship matches at SummerSlam, he was my pick before the tournament even started. Once Gunther declared for the King of the Ring, I said, not only is he going to win, he's going to get the title shot at SummerSlam and win the match at SummerSlam. And all of this time, I've been operating my thought process just with that assumption in mind. But over the past couple of weeks, they've done a really good job of kind of waking me up to this Priest and Gunther feud, to where I'm not just casually brushing it off as a Gunther victory anymore. After what we saw, I think the video treatments and the vignettes and the promo packages with both guys have been handled very well. I like how they've been kind of doing these, you know, these different type of these different type of promos, to where it's not necessarily in the ring. Sometimes it's a shot video vignette, and other times it's the talent, like we saw with Priest and Rhea Ripley tonight, cutting the promo, you know, in a pre-tape edited type of vibe, but they're really just in the backstage area sitting on a production crate or whatever. And those 2 tonight were really good. And then the Gunther and Priest brawl, I've liked every interaction I've seen with them on the mic in the past couple of weeks, and their physical altercations have also been good. And I'm now to the point where, Priest has really, I've always liked Priest as a world champion. Since he won the belt at WrestleMania, I wanted him to hold it at least until SummerSlam. I believed that Priest dropping the title anytime prior to SummerSlam would be premature and too early and would not be doing his title run justice. Now we're at SummerSlam. Feels like a given that Gunther is going to win the title. He probably still will, but WWE's done an excellent job of making me actually care and making me care enough to the point where if Priest beats Gunther, I'm going to be perfectly fine with that. I am, because Priest has been impressive. Priest has been a great world champion. Now, I think that at SummerSlam, if we see Priest win, fans are there's going to be a portion of the audience, oh, they dropped the ball, or they screwed up, or they buried Gunther. All that shit's just going to come. That's just natural. But based on how they've been booking this feud, I'm to the point now where if Priest did go over, I wouldn't consider it a travesty, the wrong decision, anything like that. I now believe Priest is credible enough as a champion to beat someone like Gunther. Now, I still think Gunther's going to win, but I'm not looking at it from the perspective anymore that if Gunther doesn't win, it's going to be some big travesty. Now, there is a possibility, I've been saying this right from the start, that they hold off Gunther's win until Bash at Berlin, which comes at the end of August. So they could do some wonky, crazy finish here in Priest and Gunther, where Priest wins, but Gunther winds up winning at Bash at Berlin. They could still do that, but probably not. We'll kind of talk about it as we go here, but based on the finish and the climax of the main event tonight, I'm looking a lot more forward to Gunther and Priest than I was a month ago. A month ago, if you guys remember, when we were talking about Money in the Bank, I was speculating and pitching ideas and ways to insert Rollins into this situation and put him in the middle of Priest and Gunther instead of in the middle of Drew and Seth, or Drew and Punk. So Seth could maybe add some spice to what might be kind of a bland or a boring match. There's going to be a certain style that Gunther and Priest are going to work together, but I'm not looking at this with the concern or the fear anymore of it maybe being a slower or blander or maybe boring match. Not at all. I'm into it. I'm invested now, and I'm going to be probably okay with the outcome either way here. And that's a credit to Gunther and Priest and WWE for making me give a shit when it feels like Gunther's trajectory towards a world championship has remained the same ever since that 3-count hit at WrestleMania and he dropped his title to Sami Zayn. Ever since then, I'm like, this guy ain't going to lose another match until he loses the world championship. So we'll see if that, in fact, will be the case for Gunther. But really looking forward to Gunther and Priest at SummerSlam, maybe even a little bit more so than Cody and Solo, although I think Roman Reigns' return is going to be tied into Cody and Solo. And in that ordeal, too, like we talked about on the podcast this week, that kind of makes that match somewhat predictable if Roman Reigns is indeed coming back at SummerSlam. I feel like he's gonna. And if he's going to, the only real reasonable scenario that sounds right in that would be him coming out to confront the Bloodline or to save Cody. But Cody's not going to drop his belt to Solo Sikoa. I would be very surprised if Solo Sikoa walks out of SummerSlam as champion. Now, if he does beat Cody, then boom, there you go. Roman comes back. You got the big face-to-face. But I don't think Cody is going to lose the title. So if Cody is going to win and not lose the title, how do you tie in a Roman Reigns return? What's probably going to happen is Cody wins and then the Bloodline attacks Cody and then Roman makes the save. That's my guess. But I suppose there is a chance that Solo could win the championship, but I hope not. The Bloodline is facing DIY on SmackDown. They might be setting them up to hold all the championships. If they win the tags, we could at least consider Solo as the world champion, but that would be mind-blowing to me if Solo won the title. That would tell me that they just gave Cody the match at WrestleMania just to do it, to shut the fans up, and then boom, they're going to go right back to their Bloodline stuff and their, Roman and Rock stuff right after that. So I just don't feel like that's going to happen. I feel like Roman coming back as a babyface and maybe helping out Cody, maybe indirectly helping him out, and maybe not like making the save, lifting him up, hugging him and shaking his hand, but maybe just coming out to confront Solo and the Bloodline, and, that kind of backs them off naturally of Cody. Don't know, but that's kind of some of my early just ricocheting in around inside my head thoughts about this week's TV, Raw, SmackDown, and SummerSlam on Saturday. By the way, we will be here watching SummerSlam on Saturday. I stayed up last night, made myself a real wild overlay for this Saturday. Have not posted the link or the thumbnail yet. I'll do that in the next day or two. So we will be here for a big watch party and review this Saturday. So join us. We'll go live like 10 minutes before the main card starts, and it's going to be a party up in here. And then, like I said, this Thursday, I'm going to drop predictions video for you guys. Just a quick one, 20 minutes long, running through who I think is going to win this Saturday. But this is kind of like the appetizer to the predictions. This is where I'm going to try to think out loud exactly where my head's at with some of these matches and what we're going to likely see at SummerSlam. So we'll talk about it all here. I have not said hello to anybody in the chat yet, so let's do that real quick. Good to see everybody here. Thank you for being here. Happy Monday, third straight day of streaming. We did the podcast on Saturday. SummerSlam 1999 watch along last night, which was interesting because today, Jesse the Body Ventura showed up in St. Paul, Minnesota, which is where Raw was tonight. And of course, Jesse was the special guest referee at SummerSlam 99 in a match involving Triple H. And then today, WWE had a video of Triple H meeting with Jesse in the parking garage. Very cool and very interesting timing on that. But it is good to see Zane G. Let's just shout everybody out here. Roman Stone, Kevin Plays, OG JJ Leg. We got Zach Palgett. What's up, man? Yeah, solid Raw, but nothing too crazy. That's exactly the way I would classify this show. Rodrigo's in the house. Ajax Johnson. Always good to see Ajax in here. And other channel members like Nick Musser. Looking forward to being at SummerSlam on Saturday. Yeah, that's going to be fun. I hope Cleveland is rocking. I hope the weather cooperates for Saturday and we have no rain, thunderstorms, or tornadoes. Don't want any tornadoes either. Don't want none of that. David Brown is here. Ronnie, what's up, buddy? Always good to see you. Michael Bisping. We got All Sports Are Scripted. And Isaac, today is Isaac's birthday. Let's all wish Isaac a happy 25th birthday. Homie is a quarter of a century old as of today. My God, that's old, dude. Better make a will. It's all downhill from here. Had to miss Raw due to being called in for work. Hope the Punk and Drew segment was juicy. Isaac, it wasn't that juicy. It was fine, but I might have some issues with that. We'll talk about it in a minute. And why are you getting called in to work on your birthday? That's horseshit. Give me your boss's number. I'm going to call and have a few words with him. But Isaac, happy birthday to you. Oh, 25. To be 25 again. I got 22 years on you. Oh, my God. Enjoy it, my friend. You're not even close to 30 yet. You're in good shape. You're in good shape, but you shouldn't be working. That's effed up. Let's see. Who else is here? Sean Swabby. Good to see you. Big J, we got Mohammed, Max Pokebra. We have Big Glenn. Of course, Big Glenn. Thanks for the $2. I believe in Joe Hendry for $2 or for free. Either way, I am a believer. Took me a while. I was about 2 or 3 weeks late to the party, but I did get there, and now I do believe. I have said his name, and he has not appeared. So my only issue with Joe Hendry is that he's a liar. That's really the only thing I don't like about him is that he lies. Say his name and he appears. Well, I did. And he didn't appear. That makes you a liar in my book, but it's okay. Always Radios in the house. Who else is here? We got Mr. T. We got the new one. Some of these are missing comments. Oh, there they are. We got Mr. T. The new one, Vontae. Good to see you. Ricky Zalvadar's here. We got Michael Kumo, Jacob A. Shell Shock. Might be missing a few others. If I am, thanks for being here, everybody. I appreciate it. I don't know if The Rock's going to come back at SummerSlam, although I wouldn't rule it out. I don't think he is, but you never know. I feel like anything's possible going into next year. They set at WrestleMania anyway. They wait what they set up between Rock and Cody. They're not going to not pay that off. So right now, I feel like the front runner for WrestleMania is Rock and Cody. But Roman's going to have a match in there somewhere. I don't know. Somebody's going to have to do double duty again. It's going to be something probably similar to last year just to make sure everybody gets their shit in. Rock being a part of this. He wants that match with Roman. That might have to happen. Maybe it's Rock and Roman on night one. The winner faces Cody for the title. Or maybe it's reversed. Maybe it's Rock and Cody on night one. The winner of that faces Roman for the title. Maybe Cody beats The Rock on night one to successfully retain. And then Roman beats Cody on night two. I don't know how any of that's going to work. It's too early to speculate on that. We got SummerSlam ahead of us before we start working or looking towards WrestleMania 41. I almost said 42, but 41 is what we're at. All right. William, what it is, man. What it is. It's good. Denny down bad. Right on. Good to see you here. Anybody else? Thumbs up button, subscribe. Please do that. Super chats are open. So are the memberships. And like I said, big SummerSlam watch party this coming Saturday. And then this coming Sunday, we're going to do another classic SummerSlam watch along. We're going to watch 96 because that's the last time SummerSlam was in Cleveland. And then we also, I think before the month of August is over, are going to watch SummerSlam in 1993. We're going to go on the Lex Express together. I think that'll be a lot of fun. All right, let's get into tonight's Monday Night Raw for July 29th, 2024. Actually, before we do that, a couple of little tiny news tidbits to get into. A lot of talk and chatter online today in AEW world about a couple of contracts. Number one is Rey Fenix. Rey Fenix contract is reportedly up this year. And since it's already August, that only leaves about 5 months left, as cars are being allowed outside. So Rey Fenix, I don't know what the status of Penta's contract is. I don't know if they're going to be tied to each other, if they want to try to stay in the same company so they can be singles and team up occasionally. Don't really know there. The Lucha Brothers in WWE, we've talked about them possibly going there before and how that would look and how that would be. I'd be willing to give it a look, sure. I'm a big Lucha Brothers fan, but I almost think Lucha Brothers can do more Lucha Brothers things in AEW. They can work more internationally, work a lot more in Mexico, where they might not have that opportunity in WWE. Although I think they would be a really fun team in WWE. But even though WWE is new and fresh and different and hot right now, there still is a very formulaic nature to what they do. And if the Lucha Brothers got into that formula, sure, we might see them every week, but there's a lot of these, same scenario type of matches. A lot of them are meaningless. And if they're not necessarily competing for the championships or champions, a lot of times they just don't really seem to know what to do with you there. So I don't know. That's a tough one. There's plenty of other talents where I'm pretty adamant which side I want to see them on. There's some talent where they got to stay in WWE or they should stay in AEW. I'm a little bit on the fence with Rey Fenix and the Lucha Bros, but I think right now I might just lean slightly towards AEW, but not much. I mean, Rey Fenix by himself as a singles in WWE would be all kinds of fun, provided they just don't immediately LWO him and actually, do something with him. But I thought that they might do that with Dragon Lee, and they didn't. So I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is with him. Ospreay, I wanted to see in AEW. Okada, ironically, I wanted to see in WWE. I thought he would be better there, but when he got to AEW, and since he's been doing this this goofball gimmick, I'm actually happy he's there. But in my head, I thought he would just be better in WWE. I prefer Jade in WWE. I prefer Cody in WWE. There's one guy I might prefer in AEW, and that's Daniel Garcia. A lot of chatter about him today as well. And his contract, and a lot of people are reporting that he's actually in this situation where he's trying to decide if he should re-sign with AEW or make the jump to WWE. He probably has a job either place if he wants it. I'm sure WWE would love to have him, especially, they started him in NXT or whatnot. But Garcia is one of those guys where, I feel like he almost has a better chance to connect and get over in AEW, just staying there. He's got the dancing and stuff, and it's a little bit of a smaller pond over there. Not really, but it is smaller, where NXT is, the roster's kind of ballooning. They've already got a lot of AEW people that just hit the scene there with Ethan Page and Shawn Spears and whatnot. And one good thing about Garcia going to WWE is that if he does start to do something right or connect with the audience, he's not going to have the problems that maybe they see in AEW with other people where you just have these abrupt stops, or they start getting over and then they're just not on TV, or they just don't follow through. They don't have that continuity or organization or whatever to capitalize on somebody gaining momentum. We've seen them screw up a few times. So maybe Garcia, just for overall exposure or success, might be better off in WWE, but his chances of, kind of finding something that just gets really crazy over and somebody just falls ass backwards into being super over. We've seen this scenario with wrestlers over the last, 40 years that this happens to. I feel like that might have a little bit better of a chance happening in AEW than WWE, but that's just a gut feeling. So I kind of am leaning towards wanting to see both guys stay. maybe with a small, not leaning WWE wise for Rey Fenix, maybe it would be kind of cool. But I think Garcia should stay in AEW because he has a feud waiting there for him with one of AEW's top stars. That would not be the case in WWE. So with Garcia, it just depends on if it's going to be a financial thing. I'm sure Tony Khan will pay him very well and very fairly, and at least, pay him as much as WWE would. And in AEW, he already has a pre-existing feud with one of their longest running world champion in company history, where in WWE, he'd be going into a completely new set of circumstances. He might not even keep his name. We don't even know that. They might name him something stupid. The dancing thing might go away, and everything that we've grown to start to like about Daniel Garcia could be stripped away. Don't really know. So we keep our eye on both guys, but Garcia, that's what's great about having competition. That's what's great about these free agencies coming up, is because guys have a choice now. So do the girls. It's very awesome for them. That's why I think tribal fans are so fucking dumb, is because this is good for us. It's healthy for the business. That's been proven, since AEW came around in 2019. Think about how the business has improved since 2019, and having another company there to act as competition, to be there to give wrestlers a chance to leverage themselves against another company, bidding wars, and giving them choices and options for the first time in a long time is really good for the business. So no matter where Garcia or Fenix ends up, just wish them both the best, because I'm a big fan of both. So at least wanted to touch on the contracts of those two gentlemen before we got into tonight's Raw results. So let's do that now. So like I said before the show, earlier on in the day, Jesse the Body Ventura showed up at Raw. He was greeted in the back by Triple H. They shook hands. They showed a little video of the two exchanging pleasantries. But Jesse was not on Raw tonight, so he didn't stick around to do an appearance of any kind. So I don't know what he was there doing. He might have just showed up just to say hi, maybe to film something for an interview. I'm not really sure what. But that was cool. I'm a big Jesse Ventura fan, always have been. So he reunited with Triple H 25 years after he refereed their SummerSlam match way back in the day. So tonight's show opened up with the biggest segment they were advertising all week. They talked about this last week with CM Punk and Drew McIntyre's SummerSlam match, and the official announcement being made last week of Seth Rollins being the special guest referee. Well, this week, Rollins was going to come out and deliver his referee instructions for the match, which they never do this. No other referee gets the two guys in the ring a week before the match and then explains to them the rules. This is a totally new thing here. But Seth doesn't really have that many rules. He came out there wearing an obnoxious referee shirt with the puffy shoulders, look like Seinfeld's puffy shirt. And he's out there dressed exactly like the type of women who ask for lemon with their water. You know what I'm talking about. The big sunglasses, them, dressed like one of them. And he looks like a buffoon. And he says that's only the beginning. If this was outlandish, if this was a crazy outfit, his puffy shirt and his leather pants, apparently he's got something crazier planned for SummerSlam, which is fun and everything in the context of Rollins. But this feud, like what I learned about this segment tonight with Punk and Drew and Seth, is that it confirms something that I kind of said weeks ago. And when it was first kind of pitched, or somebody, we were when we first kind of realized that, oh, maybe they're going to make Seth Rollins a special referee or add him to the match and make it a triple threat, I was pretty adamantly against both ideas, because the issue between Punk and Drew was so deep and so personal and so violent and so interesting that Seth Rollins is just in the way. We don't need him. And I said prior to Money in the Bank, if you were to do something like that, I feel like it would be shoehorning Seth Rollins in. You would just, now granted, he's got issues with Punk. He has issues with Drew. Those are issues that all can be dealt with down the line, but putting him in the middle of this thing, you have a situation here that doesn't need anything added to it. I don't need Seth Rollins here to be the referee to be any more interested in this match. I'm interested in it without Seth Rollins. So it's almost like you're adding Seth for no reason. Now, there's a little bit of a storyline reason to do it, yes, but overall, I think you're adding too much seasoning to something that's already seasoned perfectly. You know what I mean? You don't want to oversalt your soup. And I feel like that's what they might be doing here, because this segment was a little flat with the crowd. Now, Punk came out, McIntyre came out. They're not allowed, per Adam Pearce, I think last week, Punk and McIntyre could be in the same ring together because they're not allowed to touch each other. If they touch each other, the match is off. And then Rollins gets in the ring and says, if either of you lay a hand on me, the match is off. So I did not know referees had the ability and the power and the authority to cancel matches. I think that's got to be an Adam Pearce thing, but Rollins said the match is off. I don't think that would really be reality. If they put their hands on Seth Rollins, I think all that would mean is that Seth Rollins just isn't going to be the referee, which would be fine with me because we don't need him here for this. Big Seth fan, just don't need him here. I just don't. So as soon as Rollins says, if you lay one hand on me, the match is off, and then Punk immediately just gets out of the ring. And Punk leaves, and he basically gets on the mic and says, I'm not leaving because I'm worried about what you guys are going to do to me. I'm worried about me doing something to you and fucking up this match, so I'm going to stay out here. Drew McIntyre tries to convince Seth Rollins that Punk is the real enemy here. And, you know, they had a nice back and forth on the mic. Seth says that he hates Drew just as much as CM Punk does, and he hates CM Punk just as much as Drew does. So he has issues with both guys. So neither guy's going to have to worry about him being unbiased because he hates them both equally. He's not prejudiced, hates them both equally type of thing. So Seth gives his, you know, finally, after all this back and forth, he gives his referee instructions, which basically just consists of him, you know, wanting to be overly obnoxious with his authority. You have to listen to me. You know, he's a pro wrestler. He's a veteran wrestler. He's been wrestling for, you know, a decade and a half. He knows how little wrestlers respect referees. So now all of a sudden that he is one, he's commanding all this respect like he's the fucking president. It's pretty funny. A lot of wrestlers do this. They get drunk with their referee power, and they just think they have the right to make any rules and any regulations they want and make any calls that they want. And they want to flaunt that power. So Rollins is like, you have to listen to me. So he's going to be yelling at each guy during the match, I'm sure. And they're going to have to listen to him or put up with his bullshit or whatever. And, you know, Punk doesn't believe either guy. He doesn't believe Seth Rollins. He says, I don't believe you, you know, that you won't be non-biased because you're a liar and you're a piece of shit. And that's when Drew was like, look, Punk, you're worried about the wrong man. You're focused on Seth Rollins, the referee. You should be worried about the man who's going to kill you at SummerSlam. And the best thing about that is that he's getting paid for it. I'm getting paid to hurt you. Said something about wanting his heart to stop, the whole deal. So he's really ready to murder Phil at SummerSlam. And, you know, Punk then barks back and says the best thing to happen to Drew McIntyre in his career was hurting CM Punk because this, and Punk's a little bit right here because, you know, Punk has really made McIntyre interesting. McIntyre's masterful trolling of CM Punk, I think a lot of that was working primarily because of who he was trolling. You know, the muffin store and all this other stuff is great because of the context of it and CM Punk and what a controversial figure he's been over the past 2 years. So, you know, McIntyre executing these trolls on any old wrestler might not be as fun or as good. You know, we might appreciate the, you know, the nastiness of it, but it's not going to really make you go, holy shit, you know, the way he's been doing it with Punk. And then of course, last week, the picture with Jack Perry was, you know, the icing on the cake for me. So, and we didn't get any of that. I was hoping we'd get a little bit of a mention of that in the promo. We did not, you know, even if it was super, super subtle. You like to take pictures at Comic-Con or wherever the hell they were, or Punk just says something, just acknowledging it. But I think WWE made McIntyre take the picture down. So Punk is basically telling Drew that he's lucky that he's in a feud with him because this has made you relevant for the first time in quite a while. And he said that you should be so lucky to breathe my air, to breathe I think he said rarefied air or the rare air. So I don't know if that's a spoof or a knock on Jericho, because I think Jericho's gimmick is, you know, it's designed sort of parts of it to be a knock on Punk. So maybe this is Punk's little receipt back. I don't know what it is with this rare air and this rarefied air. I don't want to breathe anyone's air. I don't want to breathe your air coming out of your mouth. That's fucking disgusting. It's all carbon dioxide anyway. Why would I want to breathe your air? People's breath stinks. Have you ever smelled people's breath? Stinks. So I don't want to smell anybody's air or breathe anybody's air. I want to breathe my own air. So fuck you, Punk and Jericho, with your fucking airs. Keep your airs to yourself. Fart them out the other end. I don't care. So Punk basically just says that Drew's lucky to be breathing the same air as him. And I remember like back at WrestleMania 6, Warrior like grabs Sean Mooney. He's like, you do not deserve to breathe the same air as me and Hulk Hogan. Just reminds me of that. So Drew then, he's still got that bracelet on him. He's still got the friendship bracelet. He pulls it out. He dangles it and just taunts Punk. And Punk gets right in his face. Rollins is cracking up during this whole thing, which is kind of funny. But, you know, they always have to do this in feuds that are this bitter. It's a often used trope where they have to do like a stipulation to where you can't touch the other guy, or the match is off, or you'll lose your championship, because otherwise there's no way to get them in the ring for promos. So they always have to kind of do this, and it's been done tons of times. I think my favorite was that contract signing they did with Austin and Triple H, like prior to the, maybe it was the 3 stages of hell match, and like they couldn't touch each other once the contract was signed, but Triple H didn't sign it. He just pretended to or something. And then Austin signed the contract, and then Triple H beat the shit out of Austin. And then Vince is like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? You're going to get fired. He goes, I never signed. And then he signed. And then the stipulation kicks in to where they can't touch each other. I thought that was really good. So sometimes these can work, but I thought this was done a little bit lazily, but I also understand why it had to be done. Because what these guys have been through together so far over the past few months, you can't just stick them in the ring and expect them not to fight unless you have a stipulation, directing them not to. So when I saw this whole promo, I'm like, what do we need Seth for? And again, I'm not saying this is a knock on Seth. I'm saying this is a knock on WWE. I love Seth. Seth can be on top of the mountain for as long as he wants. He's great. I love his craziness, his fucking outfits. I love what a good wrestler he is. I'm not anti-Seth whatsoever at all. I've always liked Rollins, always a big fan. He just doesn't need to be here for this, and I don't think the history that he's had with Punk and Drew is enough to put him here. You know what I mean? There's too much personal stuff. Rollins and Punk's feud would have been great if Punk didn't get hurt. They went into WrestleMania to face each other. That would have been awesome. You can still do that, but you might just have to do it next year at WrestleMania. I had this idea of Cody dropping the title to Seth Rollins next year because I think Cody owes Seth a win, but you might be able to hold off Punk and Rollins until next year. But that's going to be hard to do as well. You got Bash at Berlin coming up. You got Hell in the Cell coming up, which is where I think we're going to get another, or at least the blow-off Punk and Drew match. I think at SummerSlam, with Rollins' involvement, he is just there to give us a gimmicky finish. Rollins' involvement in the match, one good thing about that is that it does give WWE an out. No matter who they book to win, it does not matter. And that was one fear I did have, is that if this was a straight-up match and you had to have somebody win with no interference or no bullshit or no shenanigans, then who do you really put over in this situation? You would think Drew, but where would that leave Punk? Now you've got a way to extend this feud with Seth being there. So he does serve a purpose in that regard. Whatever happens, it's going to be a gimmicky finish. Hopefully Seth will stay mostly out of the way for this match so these guys can have what I'm hoping a match that will rival what Brock and Punk did in 2013. Something really exciting, really fun. And then you hit us with the gimmicky finish where probably McIntyre wins, and then you do the Hell in the Cell match on October 5th. But before you get to that, you got 8 weeks of TV and you got a pay-per-view in Berlin. So I don't know what you do there. I don't know. See, what I'm thinking, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the loser of this match blames Rollins and faces him at Bash at Berlin. Then you finish off Punk and Drew at Bad Blood, is my thought. So my belief is that maybe McIntyre wins. Seth fucks up. Maybe not even fucks up, but he's going to be involved in the finish. They wouldn't put Seth in there in his frilly little sequined referee outfit or whatever the hell he's going to wear at SummerSlam if he wasn't going to be a part of that finish. So he's going to be blamed by the loser, whoever that is. So if he does something, McIntyre wins, Punk blames Seth, accuses Seth of screwing him, challenges him at Bash at Berlin, then you can have McIntyre coming out to maybe screw Punk. Now he's lost twice. Now they're in Berlin and McIntyre gets to screw over Punk on an overseas show. So not only does he get the win over him at SummerSlam, then he screws him in a match with Seth. Now that's 2 losses in a row that Punk has suffered. which should put him at a losing record, right? Isn't his only singles match against Dominic since coming back? Do I have that right? He beat him in the Garden, right? Lost to Cody at the Rumble. I guess that doesn't really count as a match. But he's 1-0 in matches since coming back to the WWE in November. Unless I'm forgetting a match, let me know. So if he loses to Drew because of Seth, then blames Seth, gets a match with Seth at Bash at Berlin, and then Drew screws Punk there, and Seth beats him, and then Punk challenges Drew. You know, all this interference. You know, I tried to fight you at SummerSlam. I had you beat, and Seth screwed me up. I then took my, revenge on Seth, and I had him beat, and you screwed me. You know, so we're even screwing each other. It's so much interference. What we need to do is settle this like men, just the two of us, inside Hell in the Cell, Bad Blood. There you go. That's where Punk gets his victory. You know, then Punk wins Hell in the Cell. He'll lose, drop 2 straight matches to Drew and Seth, but then win the one that counts. Which, could even be a match with a title shot stipulation or something, giving him a title shot at Survivor Series, just like they did in 1997 with Shawn and Taker. So thinking out loud, what do you think about that layout? Otherwise, if they did something like that, it would all fit in and make sense. Otherwise, I feel like Seth Rollins is largely more in the way here than he is actually adding something significant to the match. And I think WWE kind of had themselves in a little corner here. They had everybody or painted themselves or booked themselves into a corner here because they had basically everybody factored in except one of their top stars. That's what I was saying prior to Money in the Bank. If Seth does not beat Damian Priest, then what the hell does he do at SummerSlam? There's no time to give him a fresh opponent. Otherwise, it would be the very definition of shoehorning him in, just giving an opponent to work with for no reason. Okay, but that's SummerSlam. You should have something, bigger for him to do. And I guess this was the only thing that they really had. It's the only scenario where he really fit, was there, unless they tried to get him into the World Heavyweight title scenario. So we will see. I think that in all of the promos and the segments that we've seen between Punk and Drew, tonight was the weakest. Do you agree? That's kind of scary because I'm looking forward to Punk and Drew at SummerSlam more than any other match. And I feel like they took a half a step backwards here tonight on Raw because of Rollins' involvement and, me questioning if it's necessary. This feud is pretty good. Doesn't really need him. But like I said, also having Seth there does give you the possibilities to extend this minimum through October or until October. And that ain't bad. What do y'all think? Okay, thank you. All sports are scripted. Punk beat Dom twice, once in New York, once on each beach. Yeah, hell yeah, once in New York and once right here in Los Angeles. That's awesome. Okay, so he's 2-0. So he's going to be 2-2 if he drops these two to Rollins and or to Drew and Rollins, like I think. Oh yeah, see, exactly. I'm trying to breathe your rarefied air. I'll kiss myself COVID. I don't want that either. Zombie Fighter, how are you, man? Good to see you. I have met Zombie Fighter before. Zombie Fighter's been in my rental car. About 5 or 6 of you have been in rental cars that I've rented before. That's really crazy. But what's up, Jacob? Good to see you. Thanks for the $5. Hope you're doing well. I was hoping to get a happy birthday from you today, it's another birthday. Holy shit. How did I not? Well, I wasn't on social media very much today, but I know I follow you over on the Twitters and it's your birthday and I didn't wish you happy birthday. Well, I suck. I mean, you want to unsubscribe to me, I understand. Yo, happy birthday, Jacob. We got a couple of birthdays. I'm not sure how old you are. I'm going to guess, I think, late 50s for you, probably. But happy birthday, man. I had no idea it was your birthday. I'll make sure I give you a little shout out later on. Shout out to my friend Maddie. At least that's the Maddie I think it is. Good to see you, Maddie. I've been talking a little bit offline with Maddie lately. She might be helping us out with the channel a little bit. Chris Ludek is here. I think Punk wins and takes his bracket back. What bracket? What bracket? Is it a knee bracket? Oh, bracelet, I bet. Bracelet. Yep. See, that was one thing I wanted to mention. I'm glad you brought that up because they have really made that bracelet a focal point. So there will be a point in the match where that is brought out. It's either going to be Punk winning the match and holding the bracelet. I mean, I can see something like, one thing I would love to see is AJ Lee be maybe at ringside or do a run-in. That would be really fun. Like Punk could be distracting Rollins. AJ Lee could come in from behind, low blow Drew McIntyre. Okay, this is a weird reference. You got to be old like me to know what the hell I'm talking about here. Karate Kid Part 2. Daniel's in Okinawa. He's dancing with Kumiko. He had just won all that money from chopping through the ice blocks, right? And he's got all that cash on him. Just 2 hours earlier, Mr. Miyagi showed him a trick that, if you're overmatched or whatever, pretend to drop something. And then when you come up, just hit the guy in the balls. And so Daniel gets, attacked by Chosen. And Chosen takes his wallet and pulls out all the money, takes all the money back, and then throws the wallet at Daniel's chest and the wallet falls. And Daniel goes to pick it up, looks up, his unprotected balls are right there, bam, blasts him right in the nuts, and then grabs the money right out of his hand. I would love to see AJ Lee come in from the ring with McIntyre's dangling that thing in front of, that bracelet in front of Punk or something, and Punk's pissed. Finally Punk gets a little distraction from Rollins. AJ comes in, low blows McIntyre. He goes down as she just takes the thing right out of his hand. That would be great. Maybe a little kiss with CM Punk. Or Punk takes the bracelet himself and then gives it to her. Now, Punk also said something recently in the last couple of days. I don't know if it was on social media or in an interview or where, but he said something about he would love to make out with his wife again on TV. That bracelet, I'm telling you, I would love to see her there. If my whole idea for McIntyre winning this one, you could easily reverse that. You could flip the whole thing over. It could be Punk winning for the same reasons that I said McIntyre would win. You could look at it that way too. I said Rollins is going to be the reason for the finish. There's going to be a gimmicky finish involving Rollins. The loser's going to be pissed at him. The loser should face Rollins at Bash at Berlin. You could totally have it be Drew and Rollins at Bash at Berlin with CM Punk as the special guest referee. What if you did that? So you could totally do it that way. So if Punk wins, I could see him winning, reclaiming the bracelet, sharing a moment with his wife, giving it to her, kissing her, making out with her on TV, just like he said he wanted to for the first time since 2011. And that would be a nice moment between them. And now you've got McIntyre and Rollins at Bash at Berlin, and maybe you could have Punk be the referee there. And then you could still do Hell in a Cell. So it works either way. That is the one positive thing. Even though I don't think Seth is really needed, the one thing that he does offer and the one thing that his involvement gives this match is that you can do either guy winning, and it does not matter. It should not affect the course of the feud or whatever you want to do or whatever your end game is. There's probably a way to have either guy win here, just depending on what you do. It basically gives WWE flexibility in, how they want to book this, because Rollins does open up the door for all sorts of different finishes. So we'll see. We're going to be watching it together. It's all going to unfold in front of our very eyes together in 5 days. So y'all better set your notifications bell. That's what you do, right? Isn't that notifications bell down there somewhere? I got to put the link up first. Once it's up, you know what to do. All right, so that takes care of that whole crazy opening segment and what's going to go on with Punk and Drew at SummerSlam. We then cut backstage to some more predictable shit. And the Judgment Day's clubhouse has been vandalized. What a shock. What a shock. The Judgment Day's clubhouse completely torn to shit. There's couches are overturned. Their PlayStation is broken. There's paint and spray paint everywhere. And Dom is wondering out loud who would do such a thing. And then Rhea is like, really? Who do you think? So we go to commercial. We come back. Oh, by the way, moment of silence for Rhea Ripley. I mean, guys. What the hell? She needs to stop. She needs to stop. So we get a nice double segment, eye full of Rhea Ripley, which was really nice. That's why wrestling is the best. And they come back from commercial. Now Priest is there. Priest shows up and he looks at Dom and goes, let me guess, Liv? And then Dom's like, I think so. And then Rhea's like losing her mind, kind of a little bit off to the side there. And then Priest goes on to tell Finn Balor that he feels like he should be in his corner tonight. You're going in there against Gunther. I want to make sure I got your back. And then Balor says, nope, don't worry about it. You are going alone at SummerSlam. Rhea, you're going alone at SummerSlam. I'm going alone here tonight as well. I will handle Gunther. Balor tells them to handle Sammy and Jay, but Priest and Rhea Ripley don't really want to handle Sammy and Jay because they don't want to go back. We will not go back. And we won't. And Rhea, they've been teasing the Jay thing. So Rhea and Priest don't really want to have anything to do with this. So Dominic basically instructs Carlito to get Sammy. Go talk to Adam Pearce. And he tells Carlito to go get Sami Zayn, and then Carlito comes back later and tells him Dom has the match, which is pretty funny. So Judgment Day's dealing with the vandalism of their the looters and the protesters vandalizing their clubhouse there. But I think we all know who did that. And then if that wasn't enough, we've got, double a 2-segment eye full of Rhea Ripley and all her Rhea Ripley-ness. And then we cut immediately to Maxine Dupree. That's why wrestling's the best. So it's going to be the Creeds taking on Otis and Tozawa. They make their entrance first with Maxine, of course. They got the entrance prior to the commercial. And then the Creeds are out with Chad Gable. So this alliance now is formed. They're not being completely Team Angle. They're not out in the track suits. They got like regular dress-up suits on. But they do look pretty good. I'm ready for them to really get going at some point. And hopefully Chad Gable can make it to just a main event caliber guy. I just think he's there. So not much of a match here. Obviously, the Creeds are going to get the win. We get this big double, kind of like a double belly to back to Otis off, I think, like the second rope for the win. That's all it took after the match. Now we got a helicopter. We have motorcycles, loud cars, and helicopters here in San Diego. I'm not even in a bad neighborhood, but there's helicopters looking for somebody. Probably one of y'all. So the Creeds, after winning, Gable puts Otis in an ankle lock, and that's when Maxine tries to stop him. She jumps on his back and pulls him off of Otis, and then she slaps him right in the face. So just when you think Gable's about to kill Maxine, out go the lights, and out come the Wyatt Six. So it's only 3 of them. It's everybody but Uncle Howdy and Sister Abigail. So they start walking towards the ring. Then Nikki Cross, or Sister Abigail, climbs to the top rope. As the 3 men are walking towards the ring, she jumps onto Gable and takes him out, and Gable scurries away into the entranceway. And then the 3 guys from the Wyatt Six stand up on the apron, and we know who it is, but for the first time, they reveal their masks. Now, I think we've seen Rowan without his, but not Gacy and Loomis yet. So they stand up on the ring apron. They're looking at the Creeds, and Rowan takes off his mask. Joe Gacy takes off his mask for the first time. He's got some longer hair now. And the craziest one was our friend Dexter Loomis, who pulls off the mask. I don't know who he's supposed to be, Ramblin' Rabbit or something. And he's got like dreads now and like long hair. He looks crazy. He's the biggest transformation that we've seen so far. And they get in the ring and they take out the Creeds. So we're now seeing them in the ring. They're letting us know who these people are. They're not trying to pretend that Joe Gacy's not Joe Gacy and Bo Dallas is not Bo Dallas, that these are all completely different people. They're acknowledging that they're WWE wrestlers. So we're starting to get an idea now of how this type of gimmick and story and character is going to translate to inside of the ring. So that's kind of a first, and I'm happy that we finally got those masks off, because one of the problems with Bray Wyatt's stuff back in the day prior to his death was that a lot of it was dragging on, and it was taking so long to get things happening that fans just started naturally losing interest. And I feel like they're doing a little bit better of a job. They're still taking their time, but it's not like at a snail's pace like it was before. So now we got the masks off, and later on, I don't know where it is in my notes, after they beat up, by the way, the Creeds, Gable is in the entrance or the aisleway watching all this. And that's when Uncle Howdy shows up from behind him, and Gable sees him and then scurries off into the crowd. So it doesn't look like there's going to be time to get, Uncle Howdy and Chad Gable at SummerSlam. That's going to come at a later time. that's probably not going to be added to the card, but we are going to get a match next week. And let me just skip to my notes to where this was, because right after that happened, WrestleVotes tweeted out right after that segment that later on tonight on Raw, they're going to announce a 6-man for next week. So a few segments later is where we get a Wyatt 6 segment with Dexter Lumis. He's the one interviewed by Uncle Howdy, and very, kind of cryptic stuff there. So they're kind of interviewing these guys one at a time, getting you familiar with kind of who they're going to be, and making sure that they acknowledge and touch on their past and who they were. And so then we cut backstage, and that's when Gable is there with Adam Pearce, and he asks Adam Pearce for a match. But before he does that, he goes, "Look, I found out who the Wyatt 6 is. I'm so smart." So very, very smart. Very smart. Very smart. And he figured it out. He goes, "I know who they are, Pearce. It's Joe Gacy. It's Dexter Lumis. It's Eric Rowan." And Pearce is like, "Yeah, I know that. They're all on WWE contract." And Gable's like, "Well, if they're all on WWE contract, I need a match with them." And so he goes, "Okay, if that's really what you want, it's going to be Rowan, Gacy, and Lumis, or whatever their Wyatt 6 names are, against Creeds and Chad Gable next week." So not at SummerSlam. This is going to be on Raw next week. We're going to see the Wyatt 6 in the ring for the first time. Sans Sister Abigail and Uncle Howdy. And now they're in the ring. And hopefully this is going to be fun. I hope so. I'm still like on the fence. My heart is with it, because to me, this whole thing, the whole point of this is to honor the memory and the legacy of Bray Wyatt. Doing a wrestling storyline, creating something in his image as a tribute or a coping mechanism for his family or the wrestlers that he worked with that are a part of this. And WWE, wanting to do something to, maybe help give his legacy a better, ending, or have his spirit still be present in WWE. Because one thing about Bray Wyatt's death, it's really the first main roster death, I believe, since Chris Benoit. And you think where he was, the way he came through with NXT, and then you look at the WWE roster now, and a lot of the AEW roster for that matter, think about how many people knew him. All those NXT guys, the Rollinses and the Big E's and the Owens and the Sammys, I mean, they're all together. They're all a family, man. So this was a death that really cut a wrestling roster deeper than we had seen in quite a while. AEW went through this as well with Brody Lee, and a lot of people there knew and loved Brody Lee very, very much, but Brody died when AEW was only a year old, so there's a lot more years of relationships here with Bray Wyatt, and a lot of people in AEW knew Brody Lee way before AEW existed, but the relationships he was able to form in that locker room, he only had a year to do that, where in WWE, Bray Wyatt had a long time of, coming up through the ranks with all of these men and women. So that's why I want this really bad to work for all of them, for WWE's sake, and to give us something attached to Bray Wyatt and his name, seeing him live on in a way, maybe spiritually or something, is something that I'm really, really rooting for. And that's why I want this to be good. But I'm also on the fence on a lot of these supernatural type of gimmicks and stuff, because I feel like unless you're an Undertaker or Kane, you're going to have a ceiling with this stuff. And you have to wonder how long it takes for, if the whole point here for these characters is to come, full circle and eventually transition out of these gimmicks back to their old selves and shed that after however long it takes, or if they're kicked out of the group and replaced and the group lives on, or if the group just ends, and Bo Dallas comes to his senses and realizes that, all this pent up rage over the loss of his brother, wasn't the right way to deal with it. And you've got a whole different idea of storylines to change their characters and keep them moving, or if this is just going to be a one and done, they're going to be the Wyatt 6. And when the Wyatt 6 is over, none of them are going to do shit. Hopefully this will also elevate the talents involved. That's the whole point of factions. Nikki Cross has been around for a while. So has Dexter Lumis. And some of their issues haven't been completely their fault. So maybe this is a way to make them important again. That way, whenever the Wyatt Six does come to a close, or they wind down the faction, or if it has an ending at all, that they are better off from being in the faction, a lot like the Wyatt family were and the Shield guys were. I don't know if it's going to be able to reach those heights or not, but that's in theory what you would want for those guys, right? So we will see. We get them in the ring next week on Raw. We will have a better assessment of that a week from now, I believe. All right. So then after that, it was time for Sheamus taking on Bronson Reed. This has been a fun little, side story on Raw. I like these. It's not going to result in a pay-per-view match for any of these guys, but it's been something that they've been doing the past few weeks with Sheamus, Bronson Reed, and Pete Dunne, who, did not really appreciate his reunion with Sheamus that well. And now all three of them kind of hate each other. I thought, in normal circumstances back in the day when we had, 14 match pay-per-views and whatnot, they would stick this as a triple threat on SummerSlam, but they're probably going to have some sort of it might be like a Bash at Berlin, or maybe not even that, maybe like a Monday Night Raw triple threat Intercontinental title #1 contenders match to see who challenges Braun Breaker for his newly won IC title. Maybe they do something like that. But Sheamus and Reed have a pretty good banger here. Crowd was into it a lot. And the spot of the match that blew my mind was Sheamus had Bronson Reed up in white noise position on the second rope and hit him with it. Like, Bronson Reed's huge, and I just got to be unbelievably hard to not only lift a man that size, alone, but doing it on the wiggly ass second ropes. That's just nuts. Hits the middle rope, white noise, near fall. Bronson Reed kicks out of that. Peter Dunne shows up. Pete Dunne is at ringside, and he gets up on the apron and hits Sheamus with a shillelagh. And I wish you guys could see how I have spelled shillelagh. I laughed. I'm like, it's a good thing I'm not tweeting this because I don't know how to spell shillelagh. I would hate to spell Matthew McConaughey uses a shillelagh. Like, I'd be screwed. But I'm laughing at my spelling. I got it SHE, so she, and then like lady, but it's instead of a D, it's an L, so she-lele. She-lele. So that's what Pete Dunne hit Sheamus with, the shillelagh. And then Bronson Reed got up, hit the tsunami for the win, and beat Sheamus. But the issue is not over because Pete Dunne kind of screwed that up. So next week we'll probably get Sheamus and Pete Dunne, and then somewhere we'll get a triple threat here, I guess. I don't know, but it's not been a boring, B story on Raw, seeing these guys, mix it up every week. Sheamus is fun. Sheamus is just a fun wrestler. I've always liked him. I've always had some sort of a love in my heart for Sheamus ever since he debuted. I don't know what it is about the guy. I've just liked him. So that was fun, and I think we'll see more from these guys probably next week. Jey Uso and Carlito was up next, and I don't know if I just slipped into another dimension for a couple minutes or what, but I don't remember anything about this match other than the spear for the win. Didn't Carlito have an apple in his mouth and he spit it out? I don't know why I didn't write down any other notes other than that. I must have just been distracted. So Jey Uso beat Carlito, and I think that was the match Carlito had to go get a match for Sammy. That's what that was. Yeah, so Carlito lost to Uso there. Yeah, I don't know why I'm having trouble remembering that. I must have been out of the room or not watched that match. After that, we get a Zelina interview. So she's still got the arm thing going on. And this feels like a legit... I have no idea what's even going on with this injury, when she got the injury, or if it's kayfabe or not. But the fact that she's got that brace on makes me think that she is working through a little bit of an issue right now. And then she was brutally attacked by Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, and Sonya Deville, who really put a hurting on her arm. So I don't know if Zelina needs to take some time off and this was a write-off for her. Don't really know there. So whatever the case is with Zelina Vega, we wish her the best. WrestleVotes was out here spoiling everything tonight. They announced about midway through the first hour, I guess, that The Miz is going to be hosting SummerSlam in Cleveland. And then they had a segment where the Miz announced that he's going to be hosting SummerSlam in Cleveland. And he said it's going to be my house or something like that. And that's when R-Truth shows up and says, WWE's bringing back In Your House. And then Miz is like, no, I'm hosting SummerSlam in my house. Oh, you're going to host SummerSlam in your house? You're going to need hors d'oeuvres. And yes, you do need hors d'oeuvres. And so that became the discussion. And then Miz was like, I'm not going to have hors d'oeuvres. And R-Truth's like, you got to have hors d'oeuvres. Even Kathy Kelly is like, what do you mean you're not going to have hors d'oeuvres? That's horse shit. You need to have the hors d'oeuvres. And I recommend mini crab cakes are very good. If you get little like ahi pokey wontons, that would be super. I'm a big fan of, like steak skewers, like maybe a little chimichurri on a steak skewer. Oh my God, that'd be so good. Maybe a little truffle mac and cheese bites, things like that. Come on, Miz, hook us up for SummerSlam if you're going to go through the trouble of hosting it. So the Miz, I believe, has hosted more pay-per-views than any other person. I was there at WrestleMania last year when he hosted, and Shane McMahon came out and blew out his bullshit, and then Snoop Dogg had to save the day. So I hope we don't see Shane McMahon show up at SummerSlam and try to make good on what he fucked up at WrestleMania last year. We will see. Then it's time for the one-on-one match we knew we were going to get ever since last week. Xavier Woods taking on Karrion Kross. Not much to say here. Kross is trying to, I guess get Xavier to join the dark side, shitting on his, New Day guys. And Xavier is, I kind of feel like this might actually lead to Xavier becoming a dark character. But the problem is the Final Testament is just, I don't give a shit. I don't even dislike Kross. I think it's cool as hell to see Paul Ellering there. And I think it's awesome that the AOP came back. But this is less interesting to me than the Pete Dunne and Bronson Reed and Sheamus stuff. Way less. I just don't know what they can do to make me care about these guys or to care about Karrion Kross. I just don't. And maybe if they're able to turn Xavier Woods to the dark side and Xavier, I can almost picture him with vampire makeup or something, or maybe just being a really crazy member of this faction might add, an element of charisma that you just don't have in that group right now. I mean, if you look at him, Paul Ellering was fun in his day, but he's not doing a whole lot there other than just doing the New York Times thing and, and whatnot. They need some freshness to that, because Kross, the thing about him is he can talk. Kross doesn't suck on the mic. He can get his point across and he can articulate, but he still just lacks, I don't know, just a presence from a charisma standpoint, it just feels like. And I think if Xavier joined the group, and he would naturally just have to be extremely different type of character than he's been for the past 10 years now, and going a little bit dark, maybe getting a little bit crazy, maybe being a little bit wild, saying some wild stuff, maybe kind of having a Rick Boogs energy to him, where he's just kind of crazy, but also maybe what I'm trying to think of is like when Kevin Sullivan was just nutso, way before the Nitro days and stuff, like when he was with Woman, and something like that just might make him crazy. And if they did something, and I'm really giving this program a lot of credit and a lot of thought that WWE's probably not going to give it, but if Xavier did succumb to Kross and then decided to join the group, and he became really crazy and a little bit unhinged and dangerous to the point where the group now sees him as a liability, he's kind of freaking us out. They're all big, bad, scary guys, but they have this really unpredictable element that they asked for. They created this monster, and now Xavier starts to really lean into it. He really starts to accept, the Final Testament aura, and he likes it, and he's gotten a taste of it, and he enjoys it, and he wants it more. And he's craving more blood or something, or more carnage or more destruction. His whole entire, 10-year run for the last decade, it's been nothing but positivity. And he's had all of this boiled up, darkness inside of him that now is letting out at once like a tsunami. That's what you do. and where he's like kind of uncontrollable, you know, and he ends up destroying the entire faction by himself, you know, just he becomes like an internal, I don't want to say cancer, but a disease that rots out the entire faction. I don't know. Just an idea. I mean, they're putting these guys on TV, right? So what's the end game here? What's the point of all of this? Xavier got beat by Cross tonight. Final prayer for the win. Finisher right in the middle. So is that it? Because if that was it, that was boring as shit. What was the point of all that? Just for the New Testament I don't know, what is it, New Testament or Final Testament? Just to beat Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston? Okay. Feel like you could have more fun than that, but whatevs. So we'll see. We will see. Sami Zayn is interviewed after that. He's asked about Braun Breaker's comments and his little vignette. So they did a little Braun Breaker vignette for his match at SummerSlam with Sami, and Sami, says that he didn't need any help at Money in the Bank. I guess Breaker made reference to Sami having a one-night show before SummerSlam. You're not focused. You got your one-night show, and I'm going to beat you. And Sami's like, I had a one-night show before Money in the Bank, too. I beat him then. He was like, that doesn't matter what the hell I'm doing the night before. He goes, I'll be ready. I'm Sami Zayn. I'm a champion. So Sami has new confidence, and that's great. Think about Sami's character development over the past couple of years and how he is now. This is a guy that believes in himself, and he's no longer going to doubt or question when somebody gets in his face. He, look, asshole, I just main evented a WrestleMania a year ago. I beat the unbeatable Gunther this year for this championship. I beat this, up-and-coming Goldberg-like monster in Braun Breaker. Get the fuck out of my face. Like, I like that attitude with Sami Zayn now. Because he should be confident, and he's one of, WWE's most over acts. So I don't think he's going to win at SummerSlam, but I do like his confidence. The next segment was bonkers, my favorite of the night. A vignette with the jaded Liv Morgan, who has been heartbroken by Dominic. Girl has got a bonfire going. She has got tears streaming down her face, eye makeup running down like an absolute crazy person.
Crazy is measured from 4 to 10 because, of course, there's no such thing as a woman who's not at least a 4 crazy. So you got 4 to 10. This is your hot crazy line right here. Very important that you keep in mind where the hot crazy line is.
He's right. He's right, So there's no such thing as a woman who's not at least a 4 crazy, and Liv is way more than a 4. So she's got the tears streaming down her face. She is heartbroken. She's got a bonfire going. She's got all Dominic shit or stuff that belongs to the two of them, t-shirts and things pictures of them and all this personal crap. And she's burning it, and she's crying, and she's heartbroken, and she is just off her rocker. And it was beautiful. It was so great. You know why it's great? Because she's full of shit. What I want is the GTV footage of Liv and Dominic vandalizing Dominic's own clubhouse today. These two are absolutely in cahoots, and Dominic and Liv are fronting, and Dominic is going to turn on Rhea Ripley and join up with Liv Morgan. Judgment Day is going to look very different after Saturday, I believe. I think Priest is probably going to lose his title, and Rhea Ripley is not going to win her title back. Dominic is going to be with Liv. So Priest and Rhea are both going to have 2 huge losses to deal with. And things are weird with Balor as well. So I think that it's going to be a different looking faction. I think tonight on Raw was the final time we see the Judgment Day as we have known them to be. And that's because this is so over the top. Liv is so over the top. What's weird is because, all the fans should be able to see this coming as well, because Liv made her intentions known right from the beginning in her revenge tour to take stuff away from Rhea Ripley. She does not give a shit about Dominic. She only gives a shit about taking Dominic away. So Dominic turning on her or whatever should not break her heart. She's full of crap. She's making it seem like that. Ripley is probably loving this now. This is, as much as I love Rhea Ripley's character needs to be smarter. Rhea Ripley's character should see this as a possibility. I think she shouldn't be that blinded by her love for Dom Dom that she is oblivious to the fact that she could be getting played and hustled here. So I wish that she would at least maybe wonder or whatever, because I think with Liv, she's so over the top, unless they're changing her character now and from the scheming, sexually charged troublemaker into the absolute demonic psycho, who stalks you and burns your shit. That could be fun because she'd probably be good at. She had those tears running down her face. Those are crazy tears. There's a big difference between crazy tears and sadness tears. And you can see that. When you see sadness tears, you feel bad for that person. You see crazy tears, you run from that person. And Liv Morgan had the crazy tears. That's the type of stuff that makes you want to change your address and your phone number, and whenever you see her in public, just smile and back away while dialing 911 in your pocket type of shit. That is what she should do if they want to go in this direction. But I don't think it's that way. I think they're just playing Rhea Ripley, and Dominic is going to do something. I mean, he can't hit her, I don't think. I don't know what he's going to do to Ripley, but he's going to do something to cost her the match, allowing Liv to score, the upset win. And I think it's possible. We can't rule out that we might get an intergender between Ripley and Dom. I mean, Ripley might just challenge Dominic to a match. If he screws her and Liv Morgan wins and he makes out with Liv Morgan on the stage, from Rhea's perspective, who would she want to kill first? So if you're Rhea Ripley, do you want to kill Liv or do you want to kill Dominic? She might challenge them both to a handicap match. It might be something like that. So this has to be what they're doing, because there's just no way Liv would be that dramatic. I mean, she's really playing it up, that's for sure. So I'm calling bullshit on all of this. Dominic will turn and lip lock with Liv Morgan at SummerSlam. Oh, Dominic, he got a rough life there, doesn't he? My God. All right. And then after that, we get Sami Zayn versus Dominic Mysterio. And Carlito, when he was sent off to deal with Sammy, he comes back and he's like, hey, I dealt with Sammy. I got you a match with him. And Dom was like, no, you dumbass. I meant for you to get the match or whatever. But he already had a match earlier. So Dominic's got to face Sami Zayn. We didn't get a finish here. Carlito and JD McDonough interfered. Disqualification. Jey Uso runs in. He takes out all of Judgment Day and runs them off, leaving Sami Zayn kind of in the ring by himself. And that's when Braun Breaker shows up and nails him from behind. And Breaker goes for his big, 250-mile-an-hour spear, and Sammy gets his boot up. And I wondered how they could play that up at Money in the Bank when Breaker comes in with such force and velocity. You can't just put your boot up. Your leg's going to get torn backwards and fly off into the fourth row. But the way they executed this one, with Breaker kind of running and hitting and bouncing kind of off his foot, and the way he bumped looked really good. I liked that way better. And then he grabbed Breaker, hit him with the exploder into the corner, and he was going to go for the haluva kick, but Breaker got out of dodge. So Braun Breaker will probably make good on his opportunity this time at SummerSlam, and we'll have a classic IC title change at SummerSlam, just like the good old days. But I wouldn't be pissed if Sammy won. Sammy's one of my favorites. We then get Rhea Ripley, a little vignette promo type of thing on Liv Morgan. I like these. She's kind of sitting on a production crate. They're splicing it in with some footage of Liv, even with of Liv of the bonfire that we just saw earlier, burning all the crap. And Ripley is basically vowing to murder her. Damian Priest also had a similar promo like this on Gunther. So these different production techniques are just so nice. Just a breath of fresh air to do something different, to tell your stories in multiple different ways. Not every segment needs to be in the ring, and not every segment backstage needs to look the same. You change them up. Some are pre-tapes. Gunther would be in the stands tonight in an empty arena before the doors opened, cutting his promo on Priest. So we saw 3 or 4 different ways of, advancing stories tonight instead of all just the same way. And that's kind of cool. So the way these are shot and set up are really good. Then we had, Jesus Christ, it's Lyra and the other two. and their little smoke guns against Sonya Shayna, and Zoe Stark. Z360 for the win. I think she hit, I don't know who she hit with that with, one of them, doesn't matter, and got rid of them. After the match, Damage Control returned. They've been off TV for a while, so Io Sky and Kairi Sane and Dakota Kai showed up, ran off the heels, and cut a promo saying they're back now and blah, blah, blah. Great to see them, and it's always great to see Dakota. After that is when we got that Gunther promo in the seats talking about his match with Damian Priest. I like Gunther's presentation. You know, I like his kind of no-nonsense, deliberate style that happens to be executed without it being boring. You know, he's very, very straightforward. There is nothing flashy about him. You know, some of the most over wrestlers weren't flashy, you know, most namely Austin, but Gunther just has a way and a seriousness about him. He comes off like a movie villain. He comes off like someone who does not get rattled in a dangerous situation. I think he's one of those guys that he can be in a room surrounded by a bunch of semi-automatic weapons and his hand would not shake. You know, he's like one of those guys. So the way he's presented is, even though it's deliberate and not exactly flashy, it's fucking badass. And I like it a lot. And the main event was Finn Balor taking on Gunther for the first time one-on-one ever. I did not know that. This is the first time. That blows my mind that these two have never faced each other one-on-one. How did we not do that? I guess Gunther was on SmackDown for a long time, so maybe that's why. But shit, I am just surprised that was he on SmackDown? Yeah. Was he? I feel like he won the IC title on SmackDown. All these drafts all run together with me now. But first time one-on-one with these two, and that's awesome. Of course, Balor wanted to go it alone, and the match was real good. But again, you know, all night long, I knew this was going to be predictable. I figured that we wouldn't get a DQ here. Gunther would probably win. He's the challenger going into the World Championship match at SummerSlam. He needs to win this here. And I knew we'd get a post-match brawl between Gunther and Priest, but I was hoping we would get the finish first, and we did. Gunther was able to choke out Balor. Referee just stops the match. Gunther gets the victory. After the match, Gunther won't let go. So I'm like, all right, here you go. Damian Priest runs out. We get the big brawl to close the show, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the brawl between these two guys. I've been liking the back and forth. I've been liking the dynamic between Gunther and Priest way more than I thought I would prior to before Money in the Bank. Before Money in the Bank, trying to think ahead, I'm like, I don't know, is Priest and Gunther a match you want to have at SummerSlam? Well, now that it's here, I'm happy we're getting it. It's absolutely worthy of a SummerSlam match. And I thought it was an excellent way to close out the show. Pretty typical way, but well done. And really, you know, that's all you can ask for, is just for, you know, story and continuity and, you know, making the audience care. And I think WWE has taken a match that, you know, the fans aren't thinking that much of outside of, oh, Gunther's about to win the championship at SummerSlam. But now it's like the match I'm actually excited to see. More or less before, I was just thinking of the image of Gunther being world champion. That's what I want to get to. Don't care so much about the match, but I don't feel that way anymore. Now I actually want to see it, and I think it's going to be good. And if we did see something like Damian Priest winning in an upset, I wouldn't even flip my lid. I know 34% of Twitter will flip their lid and start explaining why it's bad. And WWE dropped the ball, and so-and-so was buried, and you're going to see all that shit. But not for me. I'm not going to care. And I would be open to that, especially when you have Bash at Berlin on the calendar at the end of the month. You could always do it there. But otherwise, it will probably be Gunther's night. In terms of SummerSlam, the championships I'm expecting to change hands are Gunther winning the World Heavyweight title, LA Knight winning the U.S. title from Logan Paul, and probably Breakker and Sammy. And honestly, I think Nia Jax and Bayley too. But I think Cody, is he going to be the only champion to retain? Oh no, Cody and Liv. Cody and Liv, I think, are going to retain. And everybody in the other matches, they're all going to drop their titles. I feel like the US and the IC changing hands would be crazy. So maybe it's possible Logan Paul retains. Oh man, if he does, I think fans are going to be upset. We finally got a chance to get some gold here on LA Knight, and he's going to beat a big-time opponent at a big-time pay-per-view to do it. It's the closest thing to, him being world champion that we might get. So if they back out of this deal too, and Logan Paul keeps the belt, that would be crazy. I could see Sami Zayn keeping it. I'd be fine with that as well. Yeah, we got to see. And on the SmackDown side of things, we have to see what Kevin Owens or Randy Orton do. I mean, as it stands right now, help me out here. There's no Kevin Owens. There's no Randy Orton. There's no Bianca Belair. No Jade Cargill. Rollins is a referee. What other major names are missing from the show? There's still some pretty big ones, I feel like. Rodrigo, yeah, I think we did watch SummerSlam 2003. I think we got to that one. I think. Got to check it out, though. Oh, I got to get my bad. I got some super chats to answer from earlier. One from my friend Vontae. Sorry for missing that one earlier, the new one. Thanks for the $5. Robert Downey Jr. returning to the MCU as Doctor Doom is similar to The Rock returning as the final boss. He might as well call the fans Marvel crybabies. See, I wish I kind of understood that. I saw a lot of the Robert Downey Jr. talk yesterday about him playing Doctor Doom, but I don't know who Doctor Doom is. So what can I comment on this? Everybody's like, oh, it's ridiculous. But I'm like, well, I like Robert Downey Jr. He's cool. I don't know who Doctor Doom is, so I don't know why it's Robert Downey Jr.'s fault. But I do understand bad casting, or when someone is cast to play a major role and maybe it's not who the fans of the franchise had in their head as the best choice, it's going to receive some backlash. I think that's the case in any movie franchise or whatever. But I personally am just uneducated on it. And I've also seen all of this talk about the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. So is Deadpool and Wolverine a different movie, or is that considered Deadpool 3? Because I don't watch the Marvel or MCU movies or whatever the fuck they are, but I did watch the two Deadpools and liked them, but I don't know anything about the Wolverine movies or any of the other ones. So if I try to watch something like the Thanos shit, I'm just not going to understand what the hell's going on. So I don't know who Doctor Doom is and why Robert Downey Jr. is getting a ton of heat. Is it going to be worse than the character he played in Tropic Thunder? It can't be. What do you mean, you people? What do you mean, you people? But yeah, unfortunately, I can't engage in that discourse because I don't know about it. Like, I wouldn't be able to offer a valid opinion because I don't know shit about Doctor Doom. So it is considered Deadpool 3. Okay. Because one thing about the Deadpool movies is even though there's tons of references to the other movies and that they do and stuff, you can still watch those Deadpool movies without knowing all about those other stories. But now that they're putting a Wolverine in there, I'm like, oh shit, do I need to know about the Wolverine? If I watch Deadpool and Wolverine, I just feel like there's going to be a ton of references that I'm not going to get. And that would suck. You want to get all the references if you can. So. Well, right on, Jose. You're just torn who to cheer for Saturdays. Punk and I are from Chicago, and you've got some Scottish ancestry. Look into your heart. You know that scene in Miller's Crossing where John Turturro begs for his life? Look into your heart. You can find it, Jose Lopez. You can find it. You just got to dig deep. Yeah, Doug. Doug's right. Stick to wrestling. Stick to wrestling, Greg. We don't want to hear you talk about something because you guys are probably super educated about this. So to hear my dumbass try to talk about Thanoses and Guardian Galaxies and shit like that, you're just like, this guy's a fucking idiot. And you would be correct because I don't know that universe. Actually, I take that back. I watched, Elizabeth showed it to me. I've watched Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't remember anything about it. I thought Batista was great. I don't remember much about it, though, but I just don't watch the movies. Hey, shut up. There's no AJ Lee slander in this chat. You're going to just roll up in here and just shit on a wrestler for no reason? She's overrated. People use overrated. If you think she's overrated, you just think she's overrated in your head. She has a lot of fans. A lot of people like her. What are we analyzing here? If she came out at SummerSlam, she would get the pop of the night, and you know she would. So, no, Tiffany Stratton is overrated too. Okay, so you're one of them. So let me explain something to Amethyst Pisces. We don't do this in here. We're not these type of fans. We're not like you. We don't come in here just smearing bullshit or trying to act superiorly knowledgeable to anybody else. And that's stupid. So don't come in here and just start talking smack. Weren't you hugged enough? Like, just explain to me the thought process. I'm going to go into a chat and just start randomly talking about how random wrestlers who we're not even talking about are overrated. What kind of life do you have to where that is a good use of your time? That's a genuine question I want to know the answer to, because I think you could do better. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to hide you and block you from the channel now because you're stupid. But that's life. Oh, thank you, Barry. So Deadpool and Wolverine, its own movie, just came out. Doom is a new movie coming out in 2 years. He's the bad guy to the Fantastic Four team with a burnt face and a robot-looking mask. Is that Josh Brolin? Who's Josh Brolin? He was in one of those I watched. He's not Dr. Doom. I don't know. Like I said, don't ask me about this stuff because I sound dumber than the people in here just shitting on random wrestlers. I'm gonna go over somebody else's chat and whatever they're talking about, I'm just gonna randomly name somebody and say they're overrated. Good night, Jacob A. It is 1:40 a.m. for you. All right, it's only 9:40 a.m. for me, or 9:40 p.m. I should say for me. I still haven't eaten dinner yet, which I'm about to now. But Josh Brolin was Thanos. Okay, thanks. And Josh Brolin is in Goonie. Well, yeah, I know that, Doug. I'm 47 years old. Of course I know that. I'm just talking about new age comic book movies. I'm about as illiterate as you can be. That in video games. I'm not good. It's not my strong suit. I can talk about wrestling all day, but that stuff, I just sound like a fool, like a buffoon. All right. Well, we have been going about 90 minutes now. I got nothing else to talk about in my notes. So I want to thank you guys for being here again. You're going to get a lot of me this week. Come back to the channel. I guess Thursday, I'll drop you my predictions. I'll try to get some comments up on Dynamite if I can, based on, depending on what we see on Wednesday. And then we got a big weekend because we'll be here for a lot of hours on Saturday. So get ready, eat your Wheaties, get your energy shots, get your, beverage of choice, non-alcoholic, alcoholic, whatever your taste is. Join us on Saturday for the watch party. Keep a lookout on the channel. By tomorrow, I will have a link to that watch party up because I have not posted one yet. But we will be here Saturday boogieing and getting our SummerSlam on, and I'm ready for the show in Cleveland. Got a big week of work ahead of me, but then when I'm done, it's all wrestling, and I'm looking forward to it. Thanks again, as always, guys, for being here. I wish you a great rest of your Monday night. Love you all, and I'll catch you in just a couple of days.